Bianca Speaks.
What's up?
Welcome back to YurpTV.
Thank you for having me, of course.
Yeah, so I ain't talked to you in a minute. Tell me what you had going on recently. I haven't really spoke to you in a while.
Gotcha. Well, my number one thing that I've been developing currently is my Afro Explicit platform. And it's a platform deriving from the term Afro, which is African American Explicit, meaning straight to the point. So it's a platform all about the nuances of being labeled Black in America. It's a blog, so I'm getting out there just trying to get support. Also, in the meantime, I've really been focusing on re-educating myself on the process of voting and really trying to understand why my vote matters. And by doing so, I've been able to gather a better understanding about voting, the process, what it affects, and what we can do in order to make our system, our system better. But not only the system, more importantly, our community.
From a pedestrian perspective, why does voting matter, do you think?
Voting matters
Why?
because...
I said, why is voting matter? That's it. Why?
Something like that. But
why does voting matter?
voting matters because it gives the people somewhat of a say-so on who we want in the office. Based on policies that these people back, So it's one thing voting for the president, but you also have to vote for city council. So when that comes around, a lot of people forget about, actually voting for these people who put these laws in front of the bigger people like the president, right? So of course we know we run for we vote for the president every 4 years. However, we vote for these other people that have to do with like city council and making laws and policies every 2 years. And a lot of people forget about that, Another thing is we don't understand the importance of the census, So this year, I saw a lot of people, especially if you pay attention to social media, a lot of people saying, wow, the census was very aggressive this year. I heard a couple of stories about people who hadn't filled out the census and they were going knocking on the doors like authorities, like, hey, asking about the neighbor just because they didn't fill out the census, And the census is important because, hey, have you guys heard about the electoral college, So a lot of people say electoral college doesn't, it decides our vote, so why vote, right? Our independent votes doesn't matter. But when it comes down to the census, that's what actually tells everybody here, hey, this state needs X amount of electoral votes. So if you don't fill out the census, we also don't know what type of funding each type of individual community needs as well. All of this helps us out. So instead of thinking that the system is our enemy, we have to be able to integrate the system and let them know, hey, this is important because if we need change, we have to educate each other in order to get there.
So, all in all, do you really feel like your vote counts? Because, I remember I was watching the Obama election back in the days, and he had won by a landslide before North Carolina voters even got tallied in. At that point, just looking at it directly for what it is, North Carolina votes didn't matter. You see what I'm saying? At that point. So do you really feel like your vote counts?
Yes, I feel like our vote does count, not individually once again. However, our votes do count if we can get a larger group of our people, especially our younger people, to go out there and vote. Yes, it does matter. The reason we're seeing like such a close race when it comes between candidates is because there's not a lot of people who are going out there and vote. If we can get our youth to go out there and vote and voice their opinion and let people know, hey, it is important to vote, then we'll be in a better place. Historically, our younger generations have always been the least amount of people to vote. Even back then when they first made it legal for people the age of 18 and
You're speaking of like the black youth, right?
I'm speaking of youth.
Oh, all youth.
Together.
Oh, okay.
All together. All youth. But it is very important for our black youth,
So a question I always run across with black youth is, why should we vote? Laws haven't changed in our favor in years. Going through, police brutality. Is either side really going to help that situation? Is either side going to help the, poverty in the country really raise? Like, So that's another question. Like, how does voting even help the black community? Like, if nothing has been done all over the years, we feel like.
Okay, so voting can't...
Well, I don't speak for the whole black community, but I've heard people.
Right, and that is a common misconception once again here. Voting helps the black youth, but it can't help the black youth if we're not showing up to vote. So again, a lot of these policies and everything that we're debating, whether it is like some of the major policies, whether you care about legalizing weed federally across the board, you know, or if you care about banning U.S. rifles or the U.S. ban on automated rifles and stuff like that, you know. We have to educate ourselves about that beforehand. Our votes do matter. But if we're not showing up to poll, then that significant shift of, hey, who we want to vote for, it's not going to count. You know, a lot of us think it doesn't count, but we're just not showing up to vote at the end of the day. You got to show up to vote for your vote to count towards anything.
I feel you. I chose not to vote. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I didn't exercise my right to vote. I'm good. Mm-hmm. I don't really get into politics. You know what I'm saying? I don't see any of these guys look like me, and the guy that did look like me still didn't help us. You know what I'm saying?
You know how you said the guy, you don't see anybody that looks like you, right? Yeah. You don't see a lot of people who look like you, and trust me, there's a lot of people, if you go and you fill out the ballot, or if you just go on, specific websites, you'll see a lot of people that look like you.
Fact.
But we don't know who's in the house to vote for, you know what I'm saying? And if we don't care enough about the system, and another thing, politics is in everything, you know? And we're just not aware of it, you know. If we're not going out there and exercising our right to vote, encouraging other people to get into politics, people who do look like us, people who represent what it is that we're going for at the end of the day, then how are we expecting to see a change?
Respect. I've heard there's a lot of power in local voting, right? That's what people have told me. I actually met Candy Smith at a couple events, and she got me actually registered to vote. I was in the middle of the street. She just pulled up. And I stood there, I know she gonna watch this and be like, man, this nigga here. but yeah, Candy, I ain't vote. Sorry, shorty. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, when you say local government, well, we're talking about voting for presidents. You vote for presidents too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of it.
So you feel like, why do you feel like voting for local government is more important?
Because these are the people who are actually in our communities. These are the people who actually write up different laws and policies and get them in front of the executive branch, and the executive branch is the president. You know, these are the people. It all starts with that. The president is a figurehead. You know, the president has some say so, but not really that much. It's about his team. You have to make sure that the team is correct. You got to make sure the team is all on one accord. So when it comes to passing specific policies, we can actually get somewhere.
Well, hasn't Joe Biden been a senator for like 30 years?
Joe Biden, he's been.
And then he became the vice president. You know what I'm saying? Nothing still has changed. So, I mean, it's like voting for two sides of the same. That's what, if you're talking about president. Local government, you know what I'm saying? I can understand that a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Because they actually, you know, change laws and things like that.
Right.
But right now, what's going on is the main thing that they're fighting on TV about is Joe Biden and Trump.
Exactly.
Let's be real. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So, with Joe Biden and Trump being the two front runners, you know how much the media hate Trump. You know how much, you know what I'm saying, black people hate Trump.
Right.
Everybody want to lean towards Biden, but Biden still don't have enough supporters, I don't think, to really see what's going on with Trump, man. Because, like I say, he's been a senator for years.
Right.
Nothing has changed.
And you know what's crazy? First of all, honestly, let me tell you right now, I don't really care for neither one of them, you know? But sometimes it's really about picking the best of both sides, the lesser of the two evils. Because if we do our job and make sure everybody, that the little people, you know, are the people who are local, are in the correct positions first, we make sure we have the president, he's going to sign away on laws that he actually agrees with as well. So when it's brought to the table in front of him, instead of having a whole bunch of laws vetoed and everything being at a standstill. And I forgot my other point that I was going to bring up here. But yeah, it's definitely important to make sure that everybody is on the same team, because if everybody's not on the same team, then you're not going to get anywhere at the end of the day. You know?
Gotcha.
Oh, and this is what I was going to bring up too, you know.
What's that?
So when I voted today, right? I voted early. It's crazy.
What's that process like for somebody who's never voted?
Okay, and this is my first time actually voting as well.
That's your first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the process, I mean, it's a smooth process. You know, the whole little corona thing going on, so you know they require you put a mask on and everything. But you know, it's a long line, and it's crazy. In that long line that I stood in, we probably stood in that line. It moved fairly quickly, but probably stood in that line for about 30, 40 minutes, right, just to vote. You know, because it's important. there were hardly any people that looked like me, you know. First of all, people that were black, I could probably count how many people were black on one hand that was there, you know. And then people who were my age, I'm 23 years old, you know, it wasn't that many people out there. And then being a black woman my age, there definitely wasn't any people out there like that, you know. And that's how I know. So how can we see change? Once again, I go back to that. How can we see change if people that look like us aren't going out there and casting their vote? You know what I'm saying? If people, they aren't voicing their opinion because they feel like they aren't being heard, you know? And I mean, and that's a very relevant feeling. And I understand why we're feeling this way, you know? And again, like I said, let me go back to the point where I said, this was the first time I actually voted, right? I felt the same way. And it's crazy, just growing up with my parents, they've always voted. Like, they push it, like vote, you know, vote, go ahead. You know, I've been out there, even in my youth, going out there and going through the process. I was always happy, you know, just to get a little sticker, you know, I voted. You know, it makes me feel proud. But if we aren't able to see this, you know, eye to eye, you know, we're thinking about division by going out and creating our own thing. How can we create our own thing if we don't have these monetary resources as well? You know, that's another argument that I hear a lot when it comes down to voting, you know. Hey, let's go create our own thing, you know, and I'm all down for that. You know, just because you vote does not mean you don't do what you need to do or you feel like you can do to be able to give back to your community. It doesn't mean it stops with your vote. No, it does not. It does not stop with your vote at all whatsoever.
So you had us watching the Ice Cube debate with what's the guy's name? Chris Cuomo. Yeah, Cuomo. I don't know. I don't watch celebrities. I don't know what they got going, to be honest.
He's just a news reporter, but
oh, word.
Yeah.
On CNN. But Ice Cube had a point, man. He said he's not with either side, but when he met with Trump, the whole internet gave him backlash type. What's your thoughts on that? It's like, let me say one thing. It's like we can't have an opinion. Like, you can't even have a conversation with Trump, or the people will cancel you. Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Just like the whole Kanye thing. Now, the Kanye thing, that's a little bit different. They're comparable, but they're not comparable. Ice Cube actually never met with Trump. Ice Cube is just in the business of getting things done, and I'm all down for that. You got to be able to meet with power in order for you to gain power. Your network is your net worth. I've said it one time. I'll say it a million.
People do business with their ops all the time. Exactly. You know, America does business with the countries they're beefing with.
Right.
You don't believe that? Go look up the Peace Treaty of Antarctica.
Of Antarctica.
What? When they look it up, you're gonna see. Look that up, because that it's 52 countries, and some of them, a lot of them have beef with each other, and they all signed a waiver to not fight in Antarctica.
Wow.
Why is that?
And that's the crazy thing, isn't it? The number one thing they taught you in grade school, going back to grade school, you have to be able to work with everybody, people from a diverse background, you know. But we do know, you know, if people's ideology do not line up, 9 times out of 10 things aren't going to get done. So I say all that to say, going back to, that's why it's important to vote for everybody else, the little people per se, as well as voting for the president. So, you know, so we can all work together as a team to get things done. Back to what you were saying, your question though about Ice Cube. Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Like, Ice Cube, first of all, like I said, he never even met with Trump in the first place. He's in the business of getting things done. Trump's campaign actually, he met with both Biden and Trump's political parties or whatever here. And the difference was Trump's campaign said, let's go ahead and get something done now. Biden's campaign said, let's wait until after the election to go out here and see what we can do. Now that, you know, it makes sense, but it don't make sense, you know. And then there's the argument about celebrities, and they get celebrities to go ahead and push the ideal of voting, like, you know.
Honestly, it's like majority of the celebrities, like black celebrities, are always Democratic. You ever notice that?
Yeah, for the most part.
Like, for the most part, a lot of black people are like Democrats. Like, why is that? Like, you know, and also back in the day, like, I talked to my pops, and he told me that Republicans black people used to be Republicans. Right. But then it was like a shift.
It was a whole switch when, I believe, when Lincoln came into play and when Lincoln freed the slaves. I mean, Lincoln, he ain't really do much. You know, he freed us, but it was a business move, I guess. You know, whatever. However, a lot of people vote for Democrats. A lot of black people are like, my family's very much pro-Democrat, you know, because they tend to be more for the black people. They're more, I'm going to put it this way. Let me step back from that. when it comes to parties, I try not to necessarily associate myself and say I'm gonna vote for this person just because they Democrat or just because they Republican. In an ideal world, we would all have time and have an attention span long enough to actually watch and learn about each candidate for each,
You would have definitely
section.
voted for Hillary, though.
Yeah, I would have voted
I know that for a fact just because how feministic your views are sometimes.
Anyway.
Facts. You would have definitely voted for Hillary Clinton.
Anywho, vote for Democrats just because historically, well, not necessarily, it's after the whole little thing after, black people used to be more for Republicans, because Democrats tend to be more open to minorities, they're more open to funding for specific things
So they
that
say.
would help.
So they say.
Yeah.
They also fund prisons, and it's a lot of other stuff, underlying factors that people don't really know.
I mean, no, that's true. That's definitely true with funding, and that's actually one of the big policies that's being debated right now as well with the funding of private prisons. Actually, so that's something else to do research on as well. But yeah, honestly, we got to stay on top of things. We got to do better with educating one another, with providing our brothers and sisters. I am talking about our black community specifically with resources in order for us to know what it is that we're doing, why it is important. And I promise, and I guarantee, and I really feel like if more of us really took the time out to actually just go vote. It don't take that long. Yeah, you stand in a line, but if you feel like it doesn't make a difference anyway, why don't just vote? If you don't feel like it's going to hurt anything, just vote. Like, what if we all showed up to vote? Everybody who had the ability to vote, what if we all just showed up to vote one year? What differences would that make? That would be wild, right?
I was telling my boy Carlos, not Carlos, it was LaKen. I like, niggas getting money under Trump, though. You got to keep it real. Niggas gets, people getting money under Trump. It's still a gap, like Ice Cube said, super gap, but it's opportunities being made.
Yeah, it's opportunities everywhere, though. Yeah. So, again, don't rely. I'm not someone who wants to sit up here and say rely on your own voting and expect the government to fix all your problems. And again, of course, this is an ongoing process. So even if you voted this year and you voted for city council and all of that, all those small little places, it's something that we got to keep up. You know what I'm saying?
Give me some more encouraging words towards the youth. Why you feel like they should vote, and that type of deal.
Okay. Well, especially when it comes to the youth, again, it's important to vote just because we have to get our voices heard, And I'm not going to say voting is the only way to do that, but in order for us to make a change, and not even just for us, for our future generations, for our kids, for all of that, we have to think about our future. Because if the process doesn't happen overnight, of course, even if it happens, if it takes another 5 years, another 10 years, or whatever, at the end of the day, ultimately, we are pushing towards change. That's what we're striving towards. So we have to keep the bigger goal at hand. And another thing I encourage us to do is try to step back from the factor to don't look at race necessarily when it comes to voting, because we have to get somebody in there who at least aligns with what we are going for. We all know all politicians lie at the end of the day. That's what they do. But if we, and just like Trump said, he's gonna build a wall. Anyway, that's another story.
He did.
He didn't get that too far with it. If he did,
he did. You didn't know they finished the wall.
He did. They did not build no wall. Anyway, that's another story.
No, tell her they did the wall.
What wall?
They built the wall.
They did not build no wall. Okay, they did not build a wall.
After the interview, I'm gonna show you the link.
You do
I'll
that.
show you.
If
they really built the wall. I swear to God. They started working on that job.
No, it did not. It did not get done.
Well, let everybody know, saying somebody wants to contact you or want information about voting or that type of deal, or wants to get in contact with your Afro Explicit page.
Gotcha.
Where would they find you?
Okay. Well, you can actually check us out on Instagram. It's Afro Explicit. And I'm sure the spelling's going to be somewhere, so I'm not going to spell all that out. Again, definitely tap in. I'm looking for more blog entries as well while I work on the background process of getting everything developed in order to get it out there. Again, we really want to spread positivity. We want to spread different perspectives of what it's like coming from our community in order to lower the rate of ignorance when it comes down to our people at the end of the day. Because it takes all of us, but it starts with us. It starts with us building our community, empowering and educating one another. And then from there, the sky is really and truly the limit. But we have to start somewhere, We have to start somewhere.
I appreciate the convo. Those of you that are watching, make sure you subscribe to YurpTV 252. Make sure you subscribe to Bianca Speaks' pages as well. I got one more thing I need you to say before we get out of here, though. You already know.
This is Bianca Speaks, and you're watching YurpTV.